begin with a beautiful, beautiful daf ahead of us today. Today's daf is Ayin Gimel 73, and even though we got onto 73, let's if you don't mind, let's just go back to the end of Ayin Beis and Beis, just the last two lines. Pick up from here, read it quickly. Amar Papa. So let's remember again, we started the new parak on Shabbos, and yesterday we tried to figure out, still on the first case of the Mishnah. The first case of the Mishnah being the animal which is condemned to die, for example, the Shra Niskol or the Chatos, that is mixed in with other animals. The Mishnah very simply tells me that what? The animal is not bottle, and as a result goes ahead and asers the entire mixture. We spent yesterday in a beautiful, beautiful, magnificent, overwhelmingly cathartic journey, trying to understand why that is. What's the pshat with that? So remember again, what did we arrive at? So it seemed to be that we're based on the idea that an animal is chashuv. So because an animal is chashuv, therefore it's not bottle. We saw the machlokes in the sheet of Rabbi Meir between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. Es shedarko limnos, kol shedarko limnos, yisodisdik ideas. So we pointed out that according to Rabbi Shmuel Lakish, according to Reish Lakish, the Mishnah is perfectly fine. Why? Because an animal is something that falls under the category of kol shedarko limnos. Usually it is sold as an individual entity, but sometimes it is sold as a group. However, according to Rabbi Yochanan, who holds es shedarko limnos, so again, what are we to do with the Mishnah? So let's pick up. So the Gemara says, Amar Papa, Haitana delitra ktsiosu. There must be that the author of our Mishnah is the Tana of the case of litra ketsios, the litra of cut, dried, and pressed figs. What does he say? Da Amar, top of Ayin Gimel, Da Amar called davar sheish bo minyan, afilu b'drabanan lo batal. Because we'll say he is of the opinion that what? Anything, and we're going to see, called davar sheish, as he said yesterday, means anything that is ever counted on its own. Even if, halacha l'maisa, normally, it is not gone ahead and sold on its own, but even rarely, if it is reckoned as its own individual entity, that is still enough to be called a davar shiva minyan, and therefore called a davar kashuv. Afilu b'drabanan. Even when it comes to rabbinic law, lo batil, it is not batil. The chol shekain, and all the more so when we deal with biblical law, it also will not be batil. We'll say, what's the case? Here we go. Disanya. We'll say this is a very interesting case. Disanya. Litra katzios shadar sa'api igol. Here we go. We'll say litra is a measurement. Ketzios are cut and dried figs. Cut and dried figs. So how would you sell? So remember again, nobody buys an individual fig. What you would do is the minimum measure of figs that people used to buy was a litra. So you would take the figs, you dry them out, you press them into cakes. But often, again, the litra itself would normally not be sold by itself either. A litra was often combined with other litros to form a larger measure. That's usually how the figs were sold. So I had the following case. Litra ketzios. So say I have a litra of pressed figs of truma. Shadar sa'al pi eagle. What I did is I pressed the cake of truma figs into a larger measure of figs. A pi eagle means sometimes these larger measurements of figs were sold as like I guess like a wheel, like a wheel of figs. I don't know, that's probably not the, but whatever. That's the shape. The shape was rounded. So I take a litra of truma figs, I press it into a larger cake of figs, an eagle. Here's the only problem. Ve'eni odeh be'iza eagle darsa. I don't know. So we'll say I have multiple wheels of figs, multiple circle shapes of figs, and there's only one problem. I don't know which cake of figs I pressed it into, or api chavis, or I have multiple barrels of figs. I take my litra of truma figs, and what do? I press it into the barrel. Ve'eni odea be'izo chavis darsa. And similarly, I don't know which barrel I pressed the figs into. Or api kuveres ve'eni odea be'izo kaveres darsa. We'll say, now kaveres literally is a beehive. What it means in this case over here is that sometimes when people create, we use also like a barrel or something to create a beehive. The idea is it's the same thing in all of these cases, which is what? I have multiple receptacles of figs. I went ahead and I took my litra ketzios of truma figs, I pressed it into one of the receptacles, and I don't know which one. Now here's what I do know. What I do know, Rabbi, is that I placed the litra ketzios of figs where? on the top of the utensil. So again, the issue at play over here is I don't know which utensil I put it into, but I know that I put it on top. Now the other good thing about figs is that what? Figs don't move. So which means is the litra of truma figs that I placed on top of the barrel or on top of the hive or on top of the wheel, I know that what? It's not going to get mixed in with the other figs. In other words, I know that it's sitting on top of one of the receptacles. The only issue is that what? I don't know which one I put it into. So suppose so let's understand what's happened over here. So now I have there are multiple receptacles of cut and pressed figs. I placed truma figs on the top. I pressed it into the top of one of the receptacles. I don't know which receptacle I placed it in. So now, again, what do I do? Now remember, this is all presupposing that what? That I am not a Kohen. So because I am not a Kohen, therefore I am not permitted to go ahead and partake of any of those figs. So the shaila now becomes, what do I do? What do I do? Very simple. So let's say, watch this. Rabbi Meir says, here we go. Rashi says over here, Ve'en yodea ezo pi kli ne'esar ubechala tachtonos pashet le'she'ina truma me'ureves bohen ela hapumin levadam b'samavek ge'eser. So Rashi just points out over here, the suffix over here is really limited to what? To the actual top of the receptacles. Because remember again, the way it works with pressed figs, I will say, is because it is solid and compact, the figs don't move around within the receptacle. So this is actually one of these interesting cases where very interesting, where the suffix is limited to typically, sometimes when you have a suffix about food items, the suffix devolves upon the entire receptacle because of the movement of the food stuff. Here, there's no movement because of the nature of the figs. So the suffix is limited to the top of all those. So if you can imagine for just a moment, I have 100 barrels. I know that I put truma figs in one of them. I don't know which one, but again, the suffix is not limited to the suffix does not devolve upon the barrel in its entirety, only the top level of the barrel. So what do I do? So first, you have to admit, this is very exciting because again, we're like a little bit out of kachim. No, we love kachim. I love mamish. I love Zevachim. But it's a little bit exciting to kind of be in the other halachos concerning bittul. So we'll say, what do I do? Rabbi Meir Omer. So Rabbi Meir says as follows. Rabbi Meir says it's a machlokes. Rabbi Lazar Omer, so we'll say it's Rabbi Meir framing the machlokes. Rabbi Lazar Omer, Roenes ha'alyonos ki'ilu hein prudos, v'tachtonos ma'alos es ha'alyonos. So we'll say Rabbi Lazar has the seemingly simplest resolution, which is we see the top of each barrel as if essentially it is separate and distinct from the rest of the barrel. Then we view it mixed in with the rest of the barrel so that the contents of each bottom of the barrel essentially are what? Are mevatal, the top of the barrel. That's right. That's how I see it. So I look at the top of each barrel essentially as if it's separate, but after it's separate, it's then mixed in with the rest of the contents of each barrel, and each barrel, by definition, has enough to be mevatel figs on the top of the barrel, and therefore for truma to chulin is 100 to 1. 100 to 1. 100 parts chulin to every part truma. So apparently, again, there's enough volume in each barrel to be mevatel the potential truma figs on top. Good. Look at Rashi for just a moment. Rowan osan kilohin prudos. Afa pisha in kan kuf pumin shal kaf kalim. Shel heter levada iser levatla iser vatachtonim in bechlal safik. Let's start from alyonos levatlan. Rowan is called litros hatachtonos. We'll define what Rashi just said in the first part in just a moment. So Rowan is called litros hatachtonos valyonos shebechal kalim prudos. V'zumu uravos bekulon, v'atachtonos mitzarfos lehalos esalyonos shebechol pum v'pum. So Rebbe Lazar seems to have a very simple resolution. View the top figs as if they are separate and distinct. Then again, after they're viewed as separate and distinct, then view them as being mixed in with the bottom figs. The bottom figs have enough to be mevatel the top figs. Shalom al Yisrael. Excuse me. All the figs are permitted. That's Rebbe Lazar. Rabbi Yeshua says, remember again, this is Rabbi Meir framing the machlokes. Rabbi Yeshua says, he said a little bit differently. Im yesh meya pumin ya'alu. So Rabbi Yeshua says as follows. if there are 100 barrels, if there are 100 barrels there, meaning 100 barrels, meaning 100 pumin. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. If there are 100 barrels, now pumin literally means 100 mouths. If there are 100 mouths of barrels, ya'alu, then ultimately what? The truma figs will be bottled. Ve'im lav, but if not, hapumin asurin, then the top of each barrel will be asar, v'hashulayim mutarin, but the rest of the barrel will be permitted. Now what's the pshat over here? Take a look at Rashi. Rashi says, Yom lav hapumin asurin, shatachtono she'in lachas. Let's say this outside. So Rabbi Yeshua says like this. Rabbi Yeshua does not subscribe to Rabbi Elazar's perspective. Now, why not? We'll say, so there's a very interesting idea. So Rabbi Elazar said, Rabbi Elazar is the simplest resolution. What does he say? Essentially, view the top of each barrel as if what? It's mixed in with the rest. Therefore, again, there's enough in the bottom of each barrel to be mevatel the top. Shalom al Yisrael. Rabbi Yeshua says, no, I can't subscribe to that. Why? There's a very simple reason why. Why? Because it's not a mixture. Because we know with absolute certainty that's what? That the truma figs are sitting on top of the mixture. So don't tell me it's mixed in when it's not mixed in. I know that it's sitting there. So therefore, Rabbi Yeshua has a different approach. He says, you could be mevatel the truma figs if there are 100 other barrels there. So if there are essentially like 101 barrels there, then I could say what? Then we'll say this is actually very interesting. Even though they're not all mixed together, I could say the one barrel which has the truma figs on top is essentially bottle on the rest of the barrels there, and therefore all of the figs will be permitted. So, right, so he's applying bittul, but what happens if there's not 100? Then what? Then both say essentially, well, here's the good news. I can isolate the problematic, not problematic, no one's problematic. I can isolate the truma figs on their own. Why can I isolate them, I will say? Because one thing I know with absolute certainty, which is what? It's the top layer. So if there aren't 100 other barrels, then halacha lemaisa, essentially every single top of every single barrel will become prohibited, out of suffix that maybe it's the truma dates, truma figs, and what? The rest of the contents will become permitted. So we'll say, so that's the resolution of Rabbi Yoshua. So again, this is Rabbi Meir's understanding of the machlokes over here, or Rabbi Meir's understanding of the issue. We have on one hand Rabbi Elazar saying that Allah Lamaisa easy, no problem. The bottom of each barrel essentially is mevatel the potential truma dates on the top. Rabbi Yeshua says, no, there's no mixture, there's no taroves over here. So if there are 101 barrels, then the truma barrel could become batel on the rest. If not, you essentially will have to aser the top dates of every single barrel. But the good news is that what? Once you isolate that top layer, the rest of the dates in every single barrel will be absolutely permitted. Rabbi Yehuda says, supposed to say that's Rabbi Meir's understanding of the machlokes. Rabbi Yehuda has a different approach. He says, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Elazar Omer, so supposed to say this is machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir about what Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Yeshua are actually saying. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Elazar Omer, according to Rabbi Yehuda's version, Rabbi Elazar says as follows: Im yesh sham kuf pumin ya'alu ve'im lav hapumin asurim. So we'll say in Rabbi Yehuda's model, he holds that Rabbi Elazar holds what Rabbi Yeshua said according to Rabbi Meir. I know that makes sense, right? So Rabbi Yehuda says that Rabbi Elazar is the one who holds Im yesh sham kuf pumin. If there are 100 other barrels, then einach inami, the top of the top layer of the figs will be bottled, and all of the barrels will be permitted. And Rabbi Yeshua says, afilu im yesh sham shlosh me'os pumin lo yalu. Ooh. Well, see, Rabbi Yeshua is of the opinion that what? Even if there are 300 barrels, the truma dates are not bottled. Now I will say, now what's happening over here? Right? Why does according to Rabbi Yehuda, why does Rabbi Yeshua hold that even if there are 300 barrels, the truma dates are not bottled? We'll say, look at Rashi, second of the wider lines on the bottom. Imik shangil meos pumin lo yalu, dechol shedarko limnos lo batil. Ooh, because we'll say, according to Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yeshua is of the opinion that anything that is ever sold as an individual unit, even if infrequently sold as an individual unit, is never batil. We'll say because a litra of figs is sometimes sold on its own, not part of other litros, but on its own. Therefore, what? According to Rabbi Yeshua, it's a davar chashiv because it's a davar chashav, therefore what? It's never batal. And because it's not batal, therefore even if you have 300 barrels, the litra of figs will still be problematic. Therefore, according to Rabbi Yeshua, you would have to answer the top layer of figs of each and every barrel. Why is this important for us? Because according to, get ready for this, according to Rabbi Yochanan's understanding of Rabbi Meir, of Esh Darko Limnos, our Mishnah would have to reflect the view of Rabbi Yeshua in accordance with the interpretation, or Rabbi Huda's interpretation of Rabbi Yeshua. Good morning, Mr. Schoenfeld. You came for the best part. Right? Then ultimately, again, our Mishnah would have to reflect the view of Rabbi Yeshua's interpretation, namely, any item that is ever sold on its own, even if exceptionally infrequently, is still called a davar chashuv, and therefore not batal. If you go according to this approach, therefore what? I understand why an animal, even if an animal is normally sold on its own, but sometimes sold as a group, it's okay, because our Mishnah reflects a much more expansive view of a davar chashuv, namely, even an item which I will say normally is not sold on its own, but what? Is sometimes sold on its own, will be called a davar chashuv, and therefore will not be batal. Incredible. We'll say, let's just finish off this case. Darsa be'eagle ve'eniodeh be'ezah makam eagle. We'll say, now this is just the extension of the case. What happens if I take the litra of figs and I go ahead and I pressed it into the barrel? They both say, now in this case, up until now we've been focusing on what? That when I take the figs of truma, where did I put them? They're on the top. That's always more. What I will say, what happens if now mamish I got it in the barrel and I don't know where in the barrel it is? Oh, the tzfona, oh, the droma, divrei hakol yal. So we'll say, actually, that's a better case. See, if I don't know where the figs are, then what Rabbi saying, then it's clear that it's actually mixed in. You see, actually, the previous case where I know that it's not mixed in, it's sitting on the top, to a certain degree represents a little bit of a greater challenge. When it's actively mixed into the rest of the barrel, then what? Then I for sure have a 100-to-1 ratio. I'm good to go. It's batal. So we'll say, so therefore again, this entire exercise about the litra ketzios was just to give us an additional opinion. So we'll say, so now we see, by the way, something amazing. I have Rabbi Meir who says that a davar chashuv is not batal. I have machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish about the scope or about the definition of a davar chashuv according to Rabbi Meir. Kol shedarko limnos, esh shedarko limnos. But now I'm introduced to a brand new opinion, the opinion of Rabbi Yoshua. But it's Rabbi Yeshua in accordance with the interpretation of Rabbi Yehuda, who holds the most expansive definition of a davar chashuv, namely, any item that is ever sold on its own, even if what? Even if infrequently, halacha l'maisa is not batal. Go ahead, it's called the davar chashuv, not batal. Rav Ashi, so we'll say another interpretation of the Mishnah. Rav Ashi marfiul timur rabbanon. What's
the reason it's no longer davar chashuv mini once it goes inside?
Because then it's a taroves. Because then it'll be a taroves. The only time it's called the davar sheva minyan, even according to Rabbi Yeshua, is when it's a self-defined entity. Then that litra is a davar chashuv. The assumption is once it's mixed in, the litra itself is mixed around. So remember again, the davar chashuv itself is never the fig. The davar chashuv will be the litra. Once the litra itself is mixed into the mix, then by definition, yalu, it's going to be batal. So Rav Ashi says, afilu temer abanan. We'll say the truth is now, Rav Ashi is going back for just a moment. And if you look at that Rashi says, Divrei Kol Yalu, Hoil Velese Le'isura Be'enei, the Isura is no longer extant. Shenidras V'nitbak Ba'achiros Milamala, Milamata, Minatzad, Ein Kan Davar Shebe Minyan Klal. So now Rav Ashi comes along and Rav Ashi goes back. Remember again, we were introduced to the Rabbanon in the Machlokes with Rabbi Meir. The Rabbanon Rabbosai said that in reality, remember they quoted there are only 6 things which are really called the davar chashuv. Rabbi Akiva added in a 7th. Now Rav Ashi comes along and says, you could even say that our Mishnah reflects the view of the Rabbanon. Now how can you say that the Mishnah reflects the view of the Rabbanon? So choose Rav Kalman. You were mechav into this yesterday after the shir. So Rav Ashi says, afilu temer Rabbanon, ba'alei chaim chashivi v'lo batli. Because I will say, the Rabbanon's list of 6 items were reflective, were societally reflective of what society called the davar chashuv. But einachinami, that's not an all-inclusive list. The Rabbanan were just saying any item which the Welt holds is a davar chashiv, by definition is not batal. So even the Rabbanan would agree that what? Balei chaim chashivi. An ox is a davar chashiv, and therefore again not batal. So we'll say, so now watch this. Now the Gemara asks as follows. So okay, what's the takeaway message? Let's take away message. So many takeaway messages. But for our purposes right now, the one takeaway message is Balei chaim are chashiv. Animals are chashiv and therefore not batal. That's why the first case of the Mishnah where the shar niskal gets mixed in with a whole bunch of other sharim. Therefore what? All of them will be aser. So says the Gemara. But let me ask a different question. V'nim shoch v'nikrav chad minayu v'nema kol de parish parish. So I'll say I have a very simple idea. Here's my issue. My issue is that I have a shar niskal that got mixed into a whole bunch of other shvarim. So what do we say? We say that halacha l'maisa they're all going to be aser. They're all going to be aser because the shar niskal is not batal. I have a great idea. Let me just go ahead, pull out one shar, and say what? Pull out one shar. V'neima called the parish miruba parish, and ultimately again saying that one shar. So we'll say it's a great chap. I can essentially go ahead and pull out one shar from the mix. And what do I say? What's the status of that shar? But pashtus, if we go after the rove, the majority tells you that shar is mutter. Keep doing that until where? It'll work at least until when? At least until there are 3 shvarim left, right? Then when I take the last one, when I take the third one, the third to last one, I can say rove. After that, it's going to be hard to say rove. So okay, but at least I'm going to limit my loss to what? To 2. Why can't I just say that? To which the Gemara says, now this is actually amazing. So the Gemara says, look at Rashi. V'nimshach chad chad minav v'nakriv yitleim echad ubechol chad v'chad neima merubahu. Just take each of them out one at a time, and I have the ability to say that each one was taken from the rove, and the rove, the majority, are kosher animals. To which the Gemara says, v'neima koch. So the Gemara says, nimshoch. 1 second. If you're going to actively take an animal out of the mix, havile kavua. See, Rabbosai, that's not what rove means. Rove means when something goes out and separates on its own. When you take something, Rabbosai, from a mixture, and that item is fixed within the group, I am faced with a concept that is called kavua. Rabbosai, kavua means any item that is fixed inside of a group. Ultimately, again, kavua is called fixed. And what's the status of kavua? Ayin gimel amud beis. V'chol kavua kimechza al mechza dami. Anything that is set in place, ultimately, again, no longer is called rove, but rather it's called 50-50. We'll say 30 seconds of background on this. You know where this comes up? We had this. Where does the Gemara quote this from? Quotes from Tosos and Chulin, but we had it earlier. We'll say, you know where the paradigmatic case is? We'll say, I live in a community where there are 9 kosher butchers and 1 non-kosher butcher. I go ahead and I find a beautiful mamish, a beautiful steak sitting on the street, sitting on the curb. You could take it because you're going to put it on the grill anyway. It's fine. It's the 3-hour rule. It's not a problem. So I say, so what happens? So, but my shaila is not one of hygiene, because after all, this is steak. Talking about the hygiene. My issue is one of kashrus. So we'll say, what's the halacha of the steak? So leaving aside Bashar Shin and Salim, I'm leaving all that aside. We'll say, what's the halacha? The halacha is the steak is kosher. Why? Because rove. There are 9 kosher butchers and 1 non-kosher butcher. What happens, however, if I walk into a store, I purchase a steak, and then I say to myself, oh my gosh, I don't remember which butcher store I walked into. Now, of course, I know what you're thinking to yourself. There's a very simple resolution, which is what? Right. Look at your receipt, right? If it's 17 times the market value, then okay, then I know it's a good. No, say let's assume that the kosher butcher is obligated to go ahead and keep his prices the same as everyone else, because I'll say because Lamaisa is outnumbered. So Lamaisa again, if I walked into a store, Rabosai, then what? Then halacha Lamaisa, I can't claim rove. Because since I went into the place, the fixed place, the kavua place, we say kol kavua kamechza mechza dami. Anytime you walk into the set location, we no longer say rove, but rather again it's a 50-50 possibility. We'll say the svara of this, it's not a svara. It's actually learned out from psukim, which we're not going to get into now. So the Gemara says over here, you want to tell me, let me just pick out one animal at a time, and every time I pick out an animal, I can say that animal is the rove, and therefore it's usable. To which the Gemara says, no. If you're going into the herd and picking out animals, then by definition, that's not rov, that's kavua. And any time that it's kavua, it's kemechtzam echzadam. Now I'm no longer dealing with rov. Now it's 50-50 that it's a shara niskal. If it's 50-50 that it's a shara niskal, the animal's going to be aser anyway. To which the Gemara says, okay, I'll give you a different eitzah. Ella nichbeshinu de 90. So you know what you do? Let's say you go to the herd, give the herd a little patch, right? Let the animals run. When the animals run, now then what? They've dislodged themselves from the group, and each individual animal which becomes dislodged from the group, I could take, and I could say is what? Is from the rov. And if it's from the rov, not the chiddush, but what I'm doing over here is, I can't actively go into the herd and pick out animals. That becomes problematic. But what I can do is go ahead and dislodge the herd, essentially. And when each animal comes out, by definition, I could say that what? That animal is coming from the rov, and therefore I'm permitted to partake of that animal. Amirava, here's the problem. Gezerah, so we'll say, what are we concerned about? Inachinami, that works for taking the animal. What I'm concerned about over here is a sauce. We'll say, let's say the case over here is a case where all of these are going to be sacrificial animals. Well, actually, I take that back. Amirava, I'll tell you what the problem is. Gzeira shema yavohu yud kohanim bebasachas v'yikravu. The issue of here, I will say, is as follows, which is that halacha lemaisa, maybe 10 kohanim are going to come simultaneously and offer up all 10 of these animals at once. We'll say the problem with that is one of these animals is unsacrificable, right? Either because it's the shor haniskal or because it's the chatos that's supposed to be left to die. So what's the case over here? Look at Rashi. Amar Rava Gzeir Shem Yavo Yud Kana Bevasachos. Second line down from the top, Ayin Gimel Amud Beis. Kasak Adaitcha Hashta Dechayish L'Shema Achar Sheyichem Echad Echad Ad Sheshachtu Yud Vehem Rov Yavo Yud Kohanim V'Yizirku Demeim V'Yiktiru Emorehen Ke'echad. So also here's the concern. Let's say again I employ this concept. 10 Kohanim go ahead and take the animals. And we'll say now taking the animals is not a problem. Let's say they end up doing the Zrikas Hadam exactly at the same time. Now we have a problem. So we'll say, see, here's the problem. The problem is if all 10 Kohanim end up taking the 10 animals and offering them up at once, I know that what? And included in that group, Rabbi say is what? Is a prohibited animal. So I have a problem. I'm just finishing Rashi. Chad umakriv kama kama ikale meimar dechol chad kare beheter miruba parish visuri hana v'hani depaishihu taveruba legabe avahashta dekarvi ki adadi lo havu hani depaishi ruba legabe. So said the issue over here is that what? Say if they're offered one at a time, I could always claim rov. But over here that they're going to be offered up at the same time, I have a fundamental issue that I can't claim rov anymore. To which the Gemara says, I don't understand. That doesn't make any sense. So one of the rabbis said to Rava, are you telling me then, we'll say literally, megisa means from the bowl. From the bowl they're going to be asur. So we'll say, I'll tell you why the case doesn't make sense. You're telling me now that what I could do is I could give the animal a little patch, give the herd a patch, let them all run. Once they run, then what? Each animal could be looked at individually, and each animal could be taken as a chulin animal or a regular animal based on the concept of rov. Now you're going to tell me they're mutter to take, but now the concern is going to be that if they're all offered up simultaneously in the Beis Hamikdash, they're going to be asur. So what you're telling me is they were mutter, and now out of a concern that they're going to be offered up simultaneously, they're going to once again become asur. It doesn't make sense. Once the animal essentially gets the stempel of being mutter, then what? Then it's mutter. Then there's no subsequent concern that maybe there's going to be simultaneous 10 simultaneous zrikos that are going to go ahead and make the animal asur. Look at Rashi just a moment. After each animal was taken individually by itself, as well say, what the Gemara is essentially saying is, once those animals were dislodged from the group, and somebody chapped each animal individually, then guess what? Story's over. There's no more discussion. What happens with that animal after you take it, after it's dislodged from the rove, The story's over. There's no longer anything else to be written about that animal. The idea that maybe so once it's shechted, it's done. I will say it's no longer part of. I should say differently. Once it's taken from the tarovis, from the mixture, then what? It's no longer part of the mixture. It's mutter. So whatever the story, whatever the narrative of that animal is afterwards, is irrelevant to us. So Rashi finishes off. So the Gemara says, "Ella Amar Rava." I'm sorry. Mishum. So Gemara says, "Mishum shema yavo yud kohane bevas achas v'yikhu." Einachinami. What we're concerned about is that maybe it'll be 10 kohanim who take the 10 animals from the mixture. In other words, I will say that at the end of the day, the concern is not that 10 kohanim will offer it up, but rather, again, the 10 kohanim will ultimately, again, simultaneously, each of them take an animal, ultimately, again, to be offered up, in which case, again, the sanctification is karim bevas achos, which is problematic, to which the Gemara says, Ba'asara kohanim bevas achos mi efsher. I don't say, can you have that level of simultaneity? Ela amar Rava mishum kavua. Rava says, at the end of the day, it's not about kohanim or karbanos, it's an issue of kavoi. See, I will say, essentially what the Gemara is saying is as follows. Here's what we're concerned about. We're concerned that if we allow you to intentionally break up the group with the intention of what? Having each animal come apart or come off the group on its own. Therefore, being able to seize each animal on its own and being able to say that it's mutter based on the concept of kol de parish and miruba parish, that whatever is separated from the group is separated from the majority is mutter. What are we concerned about? We're concerned that's going to lead you to what? To enter into the group proactively and actively remove one of the members of the group. And if you remove one of the members of the group, Rabbi say, then what? What is that called? That's called kavua. That's called going into the group, removing a member of the group. That's kavua. The animals are fixed in place. And when the animals are fixed in place, then what? Rabbi say, kol kavua kemechza amechza dami. That ultimately, again, when the animal is fixed in place, we'll say you can't claim rove, but rather, again, that's like a 50-50 possibility. So we'll say, so what comes out is as follows. What comes out is, we get Rava essentially saying like this, even though it would appear that when I have this case of the Shor HaNiskal mixed in with a bunch of other Shvarim, there seems to be an easy resolution. What's the easy resolution, Rabbi? Say, what's the easy resolution? Now again, I can't go in and take out the animals one by one. Why? Because when the animals are together, they're kavua, and the halacha by kavua is that when you take one of the members from a kavua group, it's kemechza amechza. It's like 50-50, I can't rely on rov. So I seem to have a simple eitzah, which is go into the group and what? Stir up the group. Right? Essentially, I was like, patch one of the animals, cause a controlled stampede, let the animals come out one by one, and guess what? As each animal comes up, Rabbi say, comes out, then what? What can I claim? Rov. Called the parish, and therefore again, I will say, essentially what that'll work is pretty much until I'm down to the last 2 animals. Okay, much better to lose 2 animals than to lose 15 animals. No shaila. So I'll say to which essentially the Gemara says, no, we don't want you to do that. Why don't we want you to do it? Because we're concerned that if we let you do that, what are you going to end up doing? You're going to end up going into the herd, taking out the animals one by one, thinking that it's rov, when in fact it's not rov. Instead, it's kol kavua. And if it's kol kavua, kemechza, therefore you're engaged in illegal activity. Incredible. So the Gemara says, Amar Rava, so we'll say, going a little weiter, hashta da amri rabbanon, lo nakriv. So we'll say, now that the Mishnah paskind, that when I have a case of, let's say, a shah niskal, or a chatos shemesa, that gets mixed in. In other words, we'll say, I have a sacrificially prohibited animal that gets mixed in with another group of animals. What's the halacha, Rabbi say? It precludes all of the animals from being offered. Now that I know that, now the rabbi said that entire group ultimately, again, that's listed in the Mishnah, should not be offered up. I nakriv lo marzi. If you offered it up, Rabbi say, lo marzi means what? It does not work. Rashi says, the carbon is not valid. And I will say, what that means when you say the carbon is not valid is, let's say, I took an animal from that group, and what did I do? I offered it up as my chatos. I accidentally violated Shabbos. I have to bring a carbon chatos. If I bring a carbon from that group, ultimately, again, the carbon does not affect atonement. Lo marzi. Asir, so which again seems to be a logical statement. So Asir Rafuna Bar Yehuda Rava. So Rafuna Bar Yehuda said to Rava, here we go. Chatos shenes arva ba'ola. For Ola shenes arba chatas. We'll say again, I know you missed it, so I'm bringing it back. Back to chatas and Olas ha'of. Right, we're back, Baruch Hashem. Let's remember again, what's the distinction between chatas and Olas ha'of? So remember again, Ola, the blood is sprinkled above, right? Chatas, the blood is sprinkled below. That's the distinction we're focusing on now. Again, there are further distinctions. 1 siman, 2 simanim, head stays on, head stays off. But we're focusing on the blood. Ola on top. I will say a very easy way to remember it. Ola, aliyah on top. So Ola's blood is sprinkled above the chut hasikra, the red line. Chatas, the blood below. I don't have a good one for chatas, but it's just not Ola. So good. So the Gemara says as follows. So let's say now what happens. Chatas shenes arba Ola, Ola shenes arba chatas. So here I have birds which got mixed in with each other. And what happens? Afilu achos berivo. We'll say, get ready for this. Even if I have, let's say, one chatos that got mixed in with 10,000 bird olas, or one ola that gets mixed in with 10,000 bird chatos, we'll say, what is the halacha? What is the halacha? Yamusu kulan. We'll say, you can't offer it. You can't offer it because, remember again, there's no way, you can't say bittul. Why can't you say bittul? We'll say because they're separate karbanos. And also because a karban is a davar chashuv. So it's not batal, and they just have different blood avodos. So because that, we'll say there's only one thing you could do, which is, you let them all die. Now we'll say, now here's the chat. Remember again, why are we choosing the case of birds? Because by animals, when karbanos get mixed up with each other, there usually is a quote-unquote easy resolution. What's the easy resolution? You let the animal graze until it develops a mum. You sell it off, and you use the proceeds to buy the two types of karbanos in questions. What's the problem over here? You can't do that with birds. You can't do that with birds. So because you can't do it with birds, you just simply let them die. Look at Rashi. Rashi says, Chatos shenes arba ba'ola, ba'ovos katani, the less they takanta beriya. Here we go. Because it will say you can't set birds out to pasture until they develop a mum. Shen pidyon la'of. Therefore, it's actually interesting halacha. There is no redemption by a bird offering. So, okay, kulan yamusu. I will say now, this is an amazing Gemara. When is this true? Bekoin nimlach. I will say, get ready for this. This is only when the kohen asked the shaila. Aval bekoin she'in nimlach. But if the kohen never asked the shaila, instead, what did he do? He offers the karbanos. Asa'in lemala mechza kasher umechza pasal. So say, so now watch this. When is this only a problem? If you ask the shaila, but if the kohen didn't ask the shaila, and I will say, what happens? Let's say, for argument's sake, he went ahead and he slaughtered all of the offerings, all of the birds, and he sprinkled all of their blood on top, right? Meaning above the chut hasikra. Then what's the halacha? I will say, mechza kasher. We say half of the birds are kosher, umechza pasal, and ultimately again half of them will be pasal. Look at Rashi, or same thing, lemata. If he sprinkled the blood below the chut hasikra, mechza kosher, umechza pasal. We'll say so. Essentially, this is fascinating. If he asked the shaila, so then what's the psak halacha? Psak halacha is what they all have to die, right? If he didn't ask a shaila, but instead he just offered all of them uniformly, either above the line or below the line. So the halacha is, half are mutter, right? Half are valid, and half will be pasul. But say, look at Rashi. Mechza kasher, mechza pasul. Umevi chatas v'yakrivena lamata. So we'll say, ultimately, again, what that means is, the mechza that's pasul is whatever so in other words, he has to just bring additional karbanos to go ahead and sprinkle on the other side of the line than the ones that he offered. We'll say, by the way, there's an incredible Musar Haskell in this, which is what? Apparently that might be the takeaway for some, right? When you right, sometimes you shouldn't have, the idea being is actually quite fascinating. If the kohen asks, he's told don't offer anything, which makes sense. You're not going to offer something when there's a suffix. But I will say, but if he didn't ask and he offered it, so essentially, again, what we'll say is, now we know in this mixture is chatas and ola. So if he did everything above the line, then obviously he's satisfied the ola requirement, but not the chatas requirement, and therefore he'll have to bring additional birds to satisfy the chatas requirement. He did it below the line; he'll have to go ahead and what? He satisfied the chatas requirement, but not the ola requirement. And I will say now, why is this incredibly problematic for us? Because what did Rava just say? Rava just said that any time that you are not supposed to offer a carbon, right? Animals are carbon. If you did so, it doesn't work. Yet, what do we see from here? That's not the case. It works. It doesn't work in totality, but that's okay. We don't expect it to work in totality. If I have a mixture of chatas and all the birds, and the kohen shechts it and sprinkles the blood lemala michota sikra, I know it's not going to work for the chatas because it's not a chatas. But I do see that what it doesn't work for chatas, but it does what? It does what? It does work for Ola. That's a stira to Rava. Because Rava said anytime you're not supposed to offer the carbon, if you did it, it doesn't work. From here we see it does work. Incredible. To which the Gemara says, I'm sorry, one more case. Achas lamata va'achas lamala shnei psulos. If however you offered up one bird lamala, one bird lamata, it's puzzled. The Gemara is going to discuss why that is. Shani omer, chatas kreva lamala, va'ola kreva lamata. So we'll say ultimately again, now why is it that ultimately again, if I offered up the group lamala or lamata, why is it that at least the carbon works for some part of the group? Because I could say that although again, for the chatos in the group, the sprinkling above the line doesn't work, but for the olas it does. So so again you see that even in a case where I'm not supposed to offer up a carbon, if I did, at least it works to some degree. Ella, rather you have to say that when Rava made his statement, he meant that kiman da amar ba'alei chayim nitchin, ha kiman da amar ba'alei chayim eino nitchin. We'll say, so there's a fundamental machlokes which the Gemara is going to expound on more tomorrow. We'll say, which is, and we've seen this many times before. Ba'alei chayim nitchin. We'll say, do we say that effectively a carbon could be forever set aside for non-use or not? Rava essentially says ba'alei chayim nitchin. Therefore, when you have a mixture of animals, which by definition precludes their being offered up as karbanos, they are effectively forever set aside for non-use. And therefore, even if you were to go ahead and offer them up, then what? It doesn't work. The Tana of the Brisa that we just learned of Yerabosai, by the mixture of the Chatas of Olosov, holds Ba'alei Chayin Einon Nidchin. Which means that when I have a group of Chatas and Ola birds that get mixed in together, should I be offering it up? No. But if I did, it works. Why? Because Ba'alei Chayin Einon Nidchin. Alright, so we'll stop over here for today. Wake up at Hari Shchut in Emir Tashem tomorrow. Shkoyach.